Okay, welcome. This is a mentoring call. We'll start with victories, and some of you are coaching right now. Some of you are being coached. And so I'd like two things today, a victory or triumph that's happened in the last 48 hours, and something you've observed in coaching with one of your clients that is a new discovery for you. Wendy, why don't you go first?
Okay, so a victory for me would be I like the way that I'm getting into the rhythm of the one-on-one coaching. It takes a while as you start out. I like the fact that that rhythm has clicked for me. The thing that I've observed about one of my clients, but probably all of the clients I've been working with, your clients, that there is always, what always presents is a mixture of inner game and outer game technical environment stuff. And I love the way that happens, that it becomes a bit of a dance. We dance between the inner game and the outer game for more impact and more results.
Excellent. I have a comment on that. I've noticed that people who don't have their expenses covered, or they are still struggling to have their expenses covered, their inner game problems are about survival, just making it. Those who have their expenses covered and are making millions, they have inner game problems, but they're about success, meaning they don't succeed enough, not enough issues. Both have not enough issues, but the success one sometimes is more insidious because they're comparing themselves to others. If they make 7 figures, they're comparing to 8 figures. If they make 8 figures, they're comparing to 9 figures, believe it or not. So both have inner game, but the survival ones for inner game seem to quit more often and a lot faster. They're not as aggressive because they haven't pierced that level of success. And both are problems, and both need to be coached and mentored, but the inner game challenge becomes more of a bigger issue of survival and just actually making it, and quitting becomes a lot easier for those people who are still in the survival mode where I need to make money just to cover my expenses scenario. So I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's a very big distinction for you to understand, because survival versus success, they're both not enough issues, but survival gets people to quit faster and they want to move to something else because they're more desperate, Wendy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense, yeah.
Okay, so just look out for that. And you're coaching Aussies, so you should be perfectly comfortable working at home. And I'm going to get you some more in about a month and a half, okay?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, Sven, victory and what you've observed in your coaching.
Okay, my victory is it was not on a hangout, it was on the phone that I did my first coaching while I was basically still in another event. So driving in a car, I'm in a special situation right now in regards of time challenges, and I was able to make it, although everything around was really a huge challenge, and I'm really proud of it. And the client, yeah, didn't notice anything about that, and that's a cool feeling.
You should be feeling like me. I do that kind of thing all the time. Once you do your first one, the second one becomes easier and easier, and the key is to remember that something can always go wrong, so pretend like it's always your first, even though you may do it several times. I'm glad you had that experience.
Yes, and the learning out of the coaching sessions is it's all about the attitude. So it goes in this direction you just commented on the last one. If the I use this sentence: if the attitude is right, the facts don't count. So if someone's attitude is in the right position, they go for it and they succeed no matter what the circumstances are, and that's really, really cool.
That's right. And Southwest Airlines, which is the only I think profitable airline in the United States, it's not subsidized by the government, they hire for attitude and they train for skill. So I wanted to have a better attitude with you. I had my kids sleep over, and it was unexpected, so I didn't have any breakfast stuff in the house. So I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, went to the 24-hour grocery store, got some stuff, and so this is not beer. This is called Rockstar, and this is caffeine-based, so it's keeping me awake all day. This is so I have a better attitude. Sometimes attitude also can be induced by other substances. In this case, it's caffeine for me. All right, Pete, you're up.
All right. Well, first of all, let me start by apologizing in advance if you hear any racket behind me. My kids just got home from school, and my wife is rocking out to the radio because she's painting. So it's really insane outside my office door right now. So I guess my big victory this week in the last 48 hours is that we are in the process of remodeling our home, and I have successfully torn up a bunch of carpeting and done a bunch of painting as we prepare to move into our new house. So happy to be done with that. And probably the biggest thing I've learned from coaching in recent times is that it's funny how this coaching with this group is really different than anything that I've done in the past with UIBC or UMSS. Totally different style of coaching, and I find that I'm really almost like a traffic cop, just directing the people by a little poke and a little nudge here and there. So I actually spend most of my time just sitting back and listening, and then when it's appropriate, just trying to ask the right question to get the people to just keep going and keep telling me where they want to go. So really interesting how that's developing.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with, everything is a mirror, so those are the people I've attracted, and yet those are the people that you have as well, so you're mirroring that as well. So we've evolved as a result of who we're bringing in. The claims we're making on stage are more aligned with the truth of what's possible so that we don't create as many upsets. And also, rather than taking chunks of flesh away from them every time they don't do stuff, like an African hunting dog, what we're doing is we're like a little terrier, just nipping their ankles, so that they go, nip, and that way they don't feel as if they're getting mauled and they're being reduced. And that's the type of coaching you do. All of you have the right attitude. In fact, the skill sets don't matter as much. It's nice to have both, but it's so much easier to train for skill. And so I'm not training you how to coach these folks. You are leaning into what you already know. And is it more fun or less fun for you in dealing with the traffic cop situation versus past times?
Oh, I think equally as fun. I enjoy it both ways. It's just new and different experience. So I wouldn't say that it's more fun or less fun.
Okay. See, that's an attitude response. So you see, Pete's got the right attitude. He'd be a good politician as well. But that's what happens in Ohio. He's in the Midwest, so he always gives the right answer. All right, Mache, you're up.
Okay, so my biggest victory is that I found a new way of passive income, and the process have already started. So hopefully until the end of the year, I will share some more success with you. And if it comes to coaching, I'm really amazed by how great influence I can have on, because I do it on a daily basis. I can have on people who at first they resist, and then they just like go and teach me. So yeah, that's it.
Very good. And then Justina.
About my victory, for me, my best victory is that I could manage to do all my tasks for last 2 days because it was very busy days. And about experience and about coaching, for me, because I have personal coaching, and for me this is really amazing because I can see different things when I hear them from other person, and when I start doing the same, and things I doing now, I can see also in different way. And the same problem I have before, I can explain how this can work for people I work with.
Very good. Well, my victory is I've moved into a new apartment that is completely clean with karma of starting a new life, and with having my kids come over. Sandra Bravo was over for a couple of weeks, and we spent some time together, and she's back in Australia right now. And it's just nice to be right on the San Francisco Bay, beautiful view, paying extra to see the water, and it's worth every cent. I just figured I'd get a new client from that lifestyle, and that would cover the extra rent I'm paying as a result of being there. As far as what I've noticed with clients, what I have done is I have focused on having changes come from me first before expecting changes from the outside. And this is a very important point. It's spoken in the spiritual text for thousands of years, and also in the New Age documentation, but never as simple as what I'm about to convey to you. And it's a nice lead-in to what I'm going to teach you, which will take you very little time to understand, but a lifetime to master, which is karmic marketing. So most people observe something and have an emotion attached to that observation. So 2 buildings go down in the year 2001, September 11th, and my then wife Amy used to work in one of those buildings. I would go in those buildings often when I lived in Manhattan for 8 years, and they came down 9 months after we left the city, after the birth of my son Gabriel. And those come down, and then people have feelings about that. Okay. Well, there's a science. There's between quantum physics and Buddhism and other spiritual traditions, but even hard science. There's a concept that a guy by the name of Heisenberg in the 1920s first brought to the surface to be observed, and that is that if there's an observer, it can change the behavior of something. So when you observe something, it can actually change the behavior at the molecular level, at the nano level. So, for example, you can have an intention, and that can change something. It can change reality. Now, it's very difficult to prove, and sometimes it takes time. But rather than looking at the observation and then have the feeling, what I've done that has really made me a lot happier is have the feeling and then have the observation. So feelings precede observations. And when you live that way, then you're in complete control of your feelings. And if an observation starts creating a feeling that is not supportive, then it's time to take a break until you could flip it around. So feeling before observation, and when you play in that sandbox, we say in the US, or when you play in that mindset and heart set, then you become a creator. And then your intentions become reality. So Donald Trump has a feeling to get a vacant parcel of land in New York City that nobody wants. And he feels that he can create, because he observed in his mind this massive building that could go up, and it ended up being in his name, and that was his first parcel that was very, very successful, and it put him on the map. I'll be speaking on stage with his son, whom I met 20 years ago in a dental office where I worked, because his dentist was my partner. So things, what goes around comes around, and that's going to be the topic for today. Now, some people call it karma. I don't like that term because it has a spiritual context. Karma is Sanskrit. It's one of the oldest languages spoken. It's not a language that's written as much as it is spoken. It's rooted back to India, and eventually has been translated in other languages. But words like nirvana, karma, and other words, in the context of spirituality, come from the Sanskrit language. Now, today I'm going to teach you something that you've already seen. You probably have not one, but maybe even 2 laminated versions of a single page. But this page is at marketingonline.com/KM, and it stands for Karmic Marketing. And the gentleman who created that went to Princeton University, which of all places helped develop the atom bomb. Oppenheimer, Einstein, the smartest minds at the time, before the World War II, were at Princeton figuring out how to create a very small cost to establish a massive effect. Now, if you look at nature, and this is what I want you to be really aware of, if you look at the way nature is, a small acorn turns into a giant oak tree. That's no secret, and we've used that metaphor and that analogy at workshops and seminars, and I've made a lot of money using that metaphor. A small redwood seed can turn into a giant sequoia oak, sequoia redwood tree, which is about 300 feet tall, can live 2,000 years. And going back to the time of the Romans and Jesus and even Buddha, you have these giant trees that are so big you can drive a car through it. Some have been cut, and people use the trunk as a dance floor. Now, cutting a tree like that to me is a tragedy, but that's how big these trees are. But they started very, very small. In the Christian tradition, they call the mustard seed turning into a giant mustard plant. So what I find to be true is I know that a little cause can create a massive effect. And the thing about spreading these seeds, and you can call them karmic seeds, I just like to call them, seeds of intention. They are planted in your subconscious, or they're planted in your consciousness, so that when you're doing something that may not have any relation to something else, you end up getting the something else that you want, because you're planting seeds of that something. So, for example, if kindness is something that you want to spread, and you go to an old folks home and you visit an old woman or an old man who won't remember you the next week, because if you've ever been to an old folks home, they don't remember you. They wheel the people into the sun because they like the sunlight, and when you walk through there, the place doesn't smell very good. It smells like urine. That you can never, sell an old folks home or retirement home for anything other than an old folks home, because it's just in the walls. But when you're walking through there, people are reaching out just to touch you. And so my teacher said, okay, if you want to find a soulmate, if you want to find a partner, go visit someone in an old folks home, a woman or a man, and just show acts of kindness once a week, for an hour. Because rather than going to a bar or a party or online, by giving and planting those seeds of kindness, it's going to come back to you one way or another. And guess what? It happened. So I'm not expecting you to believe this, but I'm going to show you the system that helped build a company to $250 million, because my teacher, his name is Michael, went to Princeton, where actually they developed the atom bomb. Remember, splitting an atom, how tiny causes that? There's a chain reaction that can cause massive destruction, and it did. Killed over 1 million people, dropped twice in World War II. Right? So little causes create massive effects. Now, why am I telling you this? Because it doesn't seem like these causes are going to have an impact on your business. But if you follow what I ask you to do, you have no reason to. But if you do, from 3 to 6 months, you will see what happens, because these seeds start to ripen. And that is the big trick that karma plays on us. Because like any seed, it takes time to ripen, and then they actually wear off. So someone who my teacher taught to visit an old folks home or go to an animal hospital and just show intentional acts of caring, not random acts of kindness, intentional, with intention, acts of caring, that seed gets planted, and then you get it to come back to you, because what goes around comes around. Now, I can't give this speech in front of a lot of business people because I don't believe in it, and I'm not asking you to believe in it, but what I'm asking you to do is just understand the facts. My teacher went to Princeton. His mother died, his father died, and his brother died right after he went to the White House for an award he won during the George Bush Sr. administration, and he was devastated. Then another student, Indian descent, told him, I want you to go to India with me, because you'll understand why those deaths happened. That's what happened. That's the story. So he ends up going to New Delhi in India. This is back, in the late 70s, early 80s, where people are dying in the streets of starvation in that sacred country. And the guy who asked him to go there didn't even show up. Now, he happens to think the guy who told him to go is a reincarnated Buddha who just showed up and said, okay, you got to go to India, because his life changed. When he went to India, he asked someone there, hey, I'm looking for Buddhists, because I'm supposed to be studying Buddhism. Now, this guy's grown up as a Christian. He has zero knowledge of Buddhism or spiritual teaching. And basically, he doesn't even go to church. So he ends up in India, and the Indian guy looks at his watch and he says, well, we're Hindu here, and we have Islamic tradition. Buddhism died out about 1,000 years ago, so you're out of luck. So you can imagine he's in New Delhi. He's left. He's a scholar. He's a student, and now he's there with a 3-month visa. What's he going to do? Well, he's told that there's some Tibetan Buddhists that were hanging out in Dharamsala, which is northern India, where the Dalai Lama lived. Now, the Dalai Lama, at one time, you could knock on his door. You know, I've spoken on the same stage as he has about 8 years ago. You could knock on his door, he would open the door. But it's not that way anymore, but it was back then, because remember, they had to go over to the Himalayas when the Chinese invaded Tibet, and these refugees came to northern India for safety. So there was this huge refugee camp, I guess you would call it, and my friend Michael, my teacher, went there, and he started to learn what it took to go into a monastery. He went into a monastery, a famous one in Tibet, went into Tibet, which wasn't very safe at the time, called Saramay, famous monastery, and it's been around for about 1,500 years, and he stayed there for 20 years, 20 years in the monastery learning Buddhism. He comes back and asks His Holiness the Dalai Lama, what should I do now? 20 years is a long time to be in a place with monks and all the vows associated with that, from chastity, poverty, and all the other vows that in many spiritual traditions are alive and well. And so His Holiness said, hey, there is a Tibetan scholar who lives in Howell, New Jersey. Now, if you know the city of Howell, it's a tiny little city. I don't know how many thousand people, but not too many. And one of the greatest living scholars who had to leave Tibet in 1959 because of the Chinese invasion, came over the Himalaya mountains, almost died getting into northern India, just an amazing story. And that person, okay, his name was Ken Rinpoche, became Michael's teacher. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because it's very relevant to the system I'm about to teach you. So when Michael asked his teacher, or they call it Lama, the Jews call it rabbi, Christianity we call them priests, the Greeks call them magisters. There's always a teacher, a mentor, high level. He asked him, what should I do? Okay, now that I'm out of the monastery, what should I do? And in the Buddhist tradition, if you have a teacher, Lama, you're taking care of the Lama, and then he or she, usually it's a he, is taking care of you and paying for your food and stuff like that, but you're doing all the work. So he said, I want you to apply what you learn in the monastery for 20 years. I want you to go to New York into the diamond business. He said, the diamond business? He said, look, I'm Irish. The diamond business is not run by the Irish in New York City, and it's like the mafia. You can't go into the diamond business. You can leave a diamond establishment and take out over $1 million in inventory. They only hire people within the family. It's very, very close knit. But you can't say no to your Lama, so your teachers. So he went into New York City, and he had a 2-hour commute one way and a 2-hour commute another way. Now, if that's not suffering, I don't know what is. But anyway, he would do his prayers and things like that on the bus going in. If you know New York, you know that it's a very, very long commute. 4 hours of commuting going into the Diamond District, which is in the 47th Street area in New York City. And it's actually where I got my diamond ring for Amy, my then wife. And basically the whole, it's run by Hasidic Jews, families in that area. Now, there are diamond centers throughout the world, such as in Turkey and in the Netherlands and in Belgium, South Africa, but for the United States, it's and then of course there's Great Britain and England, there's De Beers, but it's 47th Street in New York City. So somehow he got someone to say yes, and they started with 3 people. Now he started to apply the principles that I'm going to show you now on a single page, and when you look at it, it looks so simple that you wouldn't think it would ever work. But the key is doing these ordinary things consistently again and again and again with your coaching clients, with your friends, with your family, with your suppliers. And if you do it again and again and again, massive things happen. Most importantly, if you have a bad day, it takes your mind off of you and puts it on somebody else, which is a better place to be. At least it is for me. So what happened was, with 3 people, it grew. They got the site jewelry.com, and it took about 12 years, and in 2011, Warren Buffett purchased the company. It was called Andine Corporation, fastest growing manufacturing company in the history of Manhattan. Warren Buffett bought it for about $250 million with a B dollars. Now, what did Michael, my teacher, do with the money? It went to the refugees. And the refugees in Tibet and in northern India, what they've been doing is they've been typing all the sacred Buddhist scriptures into the computer so people actually could find stuff, because the scriptures are, pages. So, if you want to know what the Buddha said, you got to go through page by page. So now it's on a computer. They're not done. They have another 110 years, they think, before all the scriptures are finally typed in. But that was the purpose of why he did it. Well, the concept is called Karmic Management. I asked him if I could change the name to Karmic Marketing. I haven't had the courage to teach it publicly, but the way my life has changed in building a business where I'm working less and having more impact. So not only making more money, but working less time. I have my children 50% of the time, which is a lot of work because I have them all the time. So my days are short every time I have my kids, as a result of my divorce. So I'm working less, I'm having more impact, and all I'm doing is 4 things a day. And that's what I want to show you. And this is called Karmic Marketing for me. So if you would simply go to the Karmic Marketing page, I'm going to show you on my screen what it looks like. You've seen it. You probably, if you've been to the event, so you already have a laminated version of this. But now you look at it with a new pair of eyes. So this is called a nest, Karmic Marketing Nest. And the reason it's a nest is because you are here in the very middle. Now, when you do things for other people haphazardly, you stay here. This is very little social influence. If you do things for the world, I know a lot of people who volunteer, okay? Well, you can't grow by just doing something for the rest of the world. If you do stuff for your customers, like, give them extra support or give them gifts or, do some bonuses, that's still not enough, because that's only 2 out of the 4. If you do things for your suppliers, which I know very few people who do, a supplier can be Infusionsoft or Eye Contact. A supplier can be your gardener or your house cleaner or your maid if you have one. A supplier can be a tutor who's supplying your kids with tutoring. A supplier is anyone whom you're paying to supply you with something. Could be your outsourcing partners. And then your team, I like team to be family and people that I've paid, even people who have stolen from me. I'll tell you that story in a moment. You can do things for them. So the concept is 4 different areas: customers, suppliers. You can call these clients, students. You can call them subscribers. Doesn't matter. I call them customers, suppliers, team, and the world. Now, the key is this. If you make them successful, they'll make you successful. If you make them successful, they make you successful. If you make them successful, they'll make you successful. And if you make the world successful, the world will make you successful. Little u becomes big U. Karmic marketing starts with little u. What goes around comes around, and then little me soon expands to big me. Now, here's the interesting thing. You will never get it back, in my experience anyway, from the people who you gave it to. And that's where resentment comes in. That's my big problem. That is my mental affliction. I will tell people, I'm jealous of the people that are much, much more influential than I am, who I taught, in the old days, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And you know their names. And although I tell people I want them to be bigger than me and more powerful than me and more influential than me, the moment that happens, It's not that I'm jealous. That's my second worst mental affliction. My number one is resentment. I get pissed off. It's like, oh my gosh, how come that happened to them? It didn't happen to me, and I've shared that with you before. So we talked about mental afflictions and, you know, how that can hold you back and just being conscious of it. This gets your mind off of it. So let me show you what happens. You have 4 categories: customers, suppliers, team, and then everybody else. So for karmic marketing, I'm going to make this screen a little bigger. And here you see customers, suppliers, team, and world. All right? Now, under customers, I have a lot of them. In fact, this one has over 250, I believe. And these are 260, okay? These customers, I've decided, anyone who's paid me over $2,000, right? And many of you are on here. In the course of a year, not forever, in the course of this past year, they're on this list. So they're on my customer list. Suppliers. These are people who supply me. So Eric Lingenfelter is SBC, but also Jen works for Eric. And John Mark works for Eric. So these people are also here under suppliers. You see under, you know, Eric here, suppliers. Amy Mondosian. Okay, I put her under suppliers because she helps supply my children, right? Now, what am I going to do with Amy Mondosian? I'll tell you in a second, because I've had some challenges with Amy Mondosian. Mike Weiss, Doug Brown, Dr. Allen, blah, blah, blah. So here are my suppliers. Okay, I make a list of them. My team. Now, I'm just starting this list. So my team is going to get more and more. There are people who I've fired. There are people who have stolen from me. There's one person who was in jail because he stole from a bunch of people. They're going to go on the team. And I'll tell them what I'm going to do for them. Then the world is everybody else. People who are not suppliers, people who are not customers, people who are not part of my team. Okay, and they go here. The whole point of karmic marketing is to take the world and put them in one of these 3 categories. Because when you do, what goes around comes around. Understand? The whole point is to take the world, whoever is not in these 3 categories, and put them there. Now, a customer is someone who buys from you. A supplier is someone whom you pay to do stuff for you. And a team member, you can pay them, they can be an intern, but they're helping you, and I put them in the family category as well. So a team member can be Brianna, it can be Gabe, okay? It's no longer Amy because I'm divorced. So I put her down as supplier. She used to be team. I put her down as supplier because she supplied my kids, okay? That's the way I'm justifying it, and I'm paying her child support and alimony. So that's a supplier. She has my kids. Now, the reason I mention this is because divorce is devastating for anyone, and some of you have been through it, and the whole point of this is to be karmic about it. This is about being selfish. It's not about being benevolent. It's about being selfish. And let me tell you how this works. So I make a list of all these people. I'll come back to you so you see my face. So the first thing you do is you got to make your list. So you make a list of all your customers. If they paid you over $1, you can put them on the list. Because I have so many customers, I wouldn't have time to get to all of them. So, you know, I don't want to have a list of more than 250 because that's the most I would possibly contact in a year. So 250 is the sweet spot, you know, 200 to 250. Now, every single day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year, I contact one customer, I contact one supplier, I contact one team member, and I have a lot of family that I don't like, and I've contacted them. I have ex-team members that I don't like because I've been hurt. But if you come from this perspective, I've caused it. That's come from me, right? That's come from me ultimately. I just don't see the relationship. I'm projecting it that it's them. No, it's me, right? So I'm taking responsibility of it. That's the beauty of the system. And then with the world is new, and I got to put them in one of those 3 categories. So those 3 categories get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. right? Until you have an enlightened company. Now, karmic marketing, what do you do with these people every day? Well, if you do one person out of those 4 categories, then that means each week you are reaching out to 20 people. Each week. That's what you're doing. And you are not doing a random act of kindness. It's not random. It's intentional. It's an intentional act of caring. Why? Because no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Caring is a competitive advantage. Now, what would I say to someone? Well, let's take a former CFO of mine. This is a gentleman who literally took $110,000 out of my pocket, out of my bank account. He's not in jail, but he's slowly paying me back because we caught him. Now, what are we doing with him? I'm not going to mention his name, but some of you can guess who that is. Well, I reach out to him and I write him a note and I say, blank, I write his name. I was thinking about you. I was thinking about you today, which is true. I was, because it was his turn. I tell him, I know we've had our differences in the past, but I hope you're doing well. Period. Note, sent it, stamped, gone. The moment that piece of mail, it doesn't always have to be mail, it can be email, it can be a phone call, whatever, but for him, I didn't want to do email, I want to do a physical note, so he could hold it, so it would be physical, right? And I'm not supposed to be emailing him anyway, according to the courts, right? Because we have an issue. So the moment that left my fingertips and went into the mailbox, which I don't mail stuff in mailboxes. It's almost like it's like going to a payphone. I don't remember what that's like anymore, putting it in a mailbox. But the moment my fingers left and let go of that letter, I planted a seed. And I happened to plant the seed with someone I don't respect or like. But what difference does that make? Because if I had 3 days to live, if I had 2 days to live, if I had 1 day to live, literally, I have 1 day to live, would I still hold that resentment towards him? I'm gone. I'm going. So what would I do? I would say, you know what? I was resentful. I'm sorry I was resentful. I wouldn't say I forgive you. I would say, you know what? I really got hurt by what you did, and I'm sorry I had those ill feelings towards you. That's what I would say. Now, you can say whatever you want, but that's the way I handle it. Now, why is this happening? Why do we do this? Well, if it built a $250 million company from a guy who didn't know diamonds from golf balls, and he just applied these spiritual strategies. Now, he happened to be a Buddhist, but the Kabbalah teaches the same thing. Christianity teaches the same thing. Islam, you know, the Quran is a book of love, teaches the same thing. These are, new things are things that I doubt. I like things that are old, 2,000 years, 2,500 years, 1,500 years, those things I can trust. This is something that takes you maybe 15 minutes a day. It's something that no one I know does personally, yet the social influence and the impact it has, if it's genuine, authentic, and if you're actually meaning it when you're doing it, because the intention is very important, has massive impact. So each week I write down 5 people on my team, 5 people in my suppliers, like Infusionsoft. There are a bunch of people in Infusionsoft I can be sending. Now they think it's a random thing, but for me it's intentional. That's the beauty of it. Now, am I making them successful? No. What I'm doing is I'm appreciating them. What is appreciation? Expanding, caring. I'm not depreciating, because usually, some of the people on the list, let's say someone such as a former executive assistant of mine, okay? Things happened. I had to let her go, right? I reach out to her. I was thinking of you. I know we've had our differences in the past, and I hope things are well with you and your family. So I think, okay, if I had a day to live, I would write this note and I send the letter, right? Now, when I do that, that's 20 people a week. Multiply that by 50 weeks, and that's a lot of people. Would you agree? 20 times 50, right? Now, when you do that, you're going to be planting seeds, and you're going to be planting seeds in 4 different categories: the world, your suppliers, which are the most powerful group in that group of four, by the way, your customers, if you have any, they paid more than $1, they're a customer, and your team. And again, I'd love for you to work with people whom you don't like in your family. Now, what happens is, and this is what's happened to me, and this is the vulnerable part. When I send something to someone that I don't like, I don't care for, I have a resentment. In fact, I could say that I've hated this person. Like, I wish they didn't even exist. But when I send something out to them, I like myself more. And that thing I held on to that was really crippling my mindset and my attitude. Remember, we start with attitude. My skill set has nothing to do with this because I'm very skilled, but my attitude is sucked when things go wrong. And the bigger you get, the more likely it is things can go wrong, and they go wrong in a big way. So you add a couple commas and zeros to the losses or to the wins that you have. So karmic marketing is something that you can very quietly smuggle every single day. You don't have to tell anyone. In fact, I recommend you don't tell anybody. That's why I don't really teach it. I've gotten permission from Michael to teach it. And if you know a story of someone who knew nothing about the business, no skills, all he did is come as a monk after 20 to 25 years from a monastery, not having any exposure to other human beings other than people studying Buddhism, which has over a 2,500-year-old tradition, go into New York City, the most competitive city in the world, arguably, in the most competitive mafia type of business, diamonds, because it's very close-knit, and build out of 3 people 10,000 people strong over the course of a decade and have it purchased by the world's smartest investor for $250 million, right? And he's done it for other companies like Bumble and Bumble, which is a personal care company, and many other organizations. He's now going into the Ukraine and teaching the mafia in the Ukraine how to do this. He's gone into Bulgaria so that they don't have a revolution. He's gone to British Airways and undid the strike there that was happening for 3 years. So this has been happening again and again. And the reason it's getting a lot of acclaim, now he's written a few books. The book I recommend that you get, you may already have, is called Karmic Management. I just changed it to Karmic Marketing because that's what I do. But Karmic Management. And the whole thing is based on cause and effect. Cause and effect. And so when you look at this system and you just look at that karmic marketing nest, then what happens is when you do those things every single day, 4 people a day, how long does it take? I've already done mine. Here. So under customer, Nikki Deely. Vendor, Clayton Mask. He's the CEO of Infusionsoft. Team member, Eric Lingenfelter. And the world, Steve Harrison, right, who's a friend of mine. I've already contacted them. Whether they contact you back or not, it does not matter. What matters is you're making them. You're appreciating them. You're going in their direction, and then you don't expect anything. The most important thing about this is something I actually taught Harvey McKay, who we had a $75,000 mastermind with for 2 years, and that is do these intentional acts of caring and kindness and never keep score. Now, those of you overseas, keeping score means tallying, like, okay, I did this, therefore I'm going to get that. There is no cause and effect like that, in my experience. You just do it, and if it's coming from you and you do it enough, watch what happens. Magical thing happens. Let me tell you what happened yesterday. I got a phone call from a friend of mine named George. He said that I know that there was $600 in my name with the government that hadn't been paid to me for 2 homes I had sold over 10 years ago. I said, oh, come on, it's a scam, right? No, it's not a scam. Okay? One home owes you $100, the other one owes you $500. You just never were paid. So I said, well, give me the link. I got the link. I got $600 coming to me, just like that. And then I thought, George Antone, he's a good friend of mine. He's not on my list, right? He should be on my list. He's not a customer yet. He's a friend, right? He's not a supplier. He's not a team member. He's the world. So I'm going to see if I can make him a supplier or a customer or one of those others, and that's how the way I make sense of the world is Take the world and then put them in one of those 3 other categories and do one thing per category per day and watch what happens. So that's my speech. That took about 50 minutes. So let's go round robin and just get any basic feedback and comments. If it was too much for you, you can tell me. If it wasn't enough, we can go in the future sometime, but that's karmic marketing. Wendy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that was great. I've heard you do the basics with us before. I think you did it at our mastermind in San Fran a couple of years ago, but giving all those examples and then seeing the database and what you do daily really brought it to life for me, so I found it really powerful. Thank you.
Make your list, do it for 3 months, and then quit. And here's what happens. When you quit, you're going to get the benefit. And so what happens is I tell them, quit after 3 months. Don't keep doing it, because every single day it's kind of hard to do, especially when you're not in a very good mood. Life happens. But after you quit, because you planted the seeds, which are still germinating, it'll come back, and then you want to start up again. So give it a shot and see what happens. Okay. And
I just got to add to that. Ironically, there's a message here. I've only got a kind of a semi-conflict with one person in my life at the moment, and that's my ex-bookkeeper. And I actually loaned her my Karmic Management book, which I need to get back from her. So I will reach out to her and also do the nice gratitude thing. But then my book will come back to me as well.
Yeah, and my recommendation is never play small. Like, I'm not telling them I love them or they're amazing, or I'm telling them I was thinking about them. I know we've had our differences, and I hope that they're well. That's a huge difference than saying that you're amazing and I wish that we could do business again. I don't want to do business with these people again. I don't trust them, right? I mean, I trust not to trust them. But if you just tell the truth, I'm not going to say the universe, nature will take care of it, and you will grow. I know of no other system that is non-business related that works as fast if you're willing to work it for about 90 days. Sven?
I think it's a perfect example that repeating something like the Karmic Marketing Nest over and over again, or several times, the amount doesn't matter, but the fact that you are open to have a look to the same thing you had before, but you have changed over time, your experience has changed, your perspective has changed, you're getting new things out of the same, and I like it.
The best part is you're not promoting, so there's no fear involved. What you're doing is you're taking a leadership role and appreciating. I'm calling it caring, because the Dalai Lama has the corner on compassion. But I like the word caring. It's nice. We care for our kids. We care for people. We don't care for ourselves as much. But you're not asking for anything. You're just making a statement of appreciation that's genuine. And in the beginning, you're going to learn that sometimes you didn't make it in a way that it was received. You can't worry about how they come back and respond to you. That was their experience. And then when you come back to them, because the people I keep coming back to is my team, because I have the fewest of them compared to everybody else, those are the ones that we ignore. At least I do, because they're my team. It's kind of like their family. So it's really simple, but it's not easy, because it takes a rhythm. But it's about 15 minutes a day, and just plan it the night before. It's pretty cool, especially when you are about to move, like Pete. So let me see if I can get Pete on. I lost my. Here we go. Connected. I'm losing my mouse, but I think that we're going to have you. Okay, go ahead, Pete.
All right, so this is something that I've done already for years in my business, specifically with my customer base. So it's one way that I've been able to maintain my relationships for many years and grow my business, or at least keep it steady in times when like when we had the recession and things like that. But it's something that I've never applied to other areas of my life. So I've never done it with suppliers or with my team or with the world. So I already know it works with business, so I'm anxious to try it with all 4 categories and see what happens.
Yeah, and the key is the categories too, because without the categories, you're not expanding your nest, right? And it's an echo. It takes time. Mache. We've talked about it before, but we went into more detail this time.
All right. Yes, I totally love it. And in fact, I can't wait for the Hangout to finish so I can start creating my own list of people. Yes, I feel it's a very powerful tool, and I really can't wait so I can face my demons and to contact people I don't really like in my life. So I wonder how it will work for me. Yes.
Well, just do it and don't give it another thought. Just get it done and then move on. You know what I mean? Don't keep score. All right.
Thank you.
Justina, welcome back.
Welcome. I didn't ask the question, so if you could repeat it.
The question.
What's your question?
Well, you came in and out a little bit. Did you see it, or would you like to watch the replay before you make a comment?
Maybe before I watch the replay, it will be better.
What's very ironic, poor Justina, we were on a hangout together, and then we got cut off again. So for whatever reason, she hasn't seen the complete version of this. So today we have it, and it's complete. This isn't the final thing. This isn't the biggest thing. This isn't the most amazing thing. It's another thing, and if you get it out of the way and just do it, you can put your mind on the other worries and delights that you face every single day. Just don't expect any results. Don't keep score. Pete, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So 2 questions. Number 1, does any form of contact count? So telephone call, letter, text, anything?
Yes, that's a very good question. Here's what I've learned. And remember, I learned it from someone else. I'm the one who's saying, take the world and put them in the other 3 categories. Michael doesn't say that. To Michael, everyone's the same. For me, I like to bring the world and bring them all in. So, for example, if it's someone that I don't care for, if it's someone who I don't respect, or maybe I did something that I'm not proud of, then I send a physical letter. And the reason I send a physical letter is because a letter takes time to write. And when someone receives that letter, it looks like, wow, this guy put time into this, even if it's just a single postcard and a page. I always put in a letter. I don't do a postcard, so the mail carrier, the postal carrier can read it. But I'll usually do 1 letter a day, 2 letters a day. My friend Brandon Steiner, who runs the world's largest memorabilia company, he has a 9,000 square foot home. He built it for over $40 million. He started with nothing. He was a baker. His father left him early on, and he took care of his family growing up in Brooklyn, New York, and he runs a very successful company that handles all of the signatures and baseball signatures, basketball, and anytime you have a signature on something, that's called memorabilia. And he does this. I taught it to him. He does it, and he swears by it. He'll write 2 notes a day, and then he'll do some email and phone calls. When I do a phone call, it's really cool. Like, so let's say I'd call all of you. I'd call you, and I'd say, how's your day? And what's something that happened? Victory. All of you are going to get phone calls. I mean, you're part of the list. It's just you're in the pecking order. You're in line. So I decide who I'm going to send the letter to. For me, the ones that I'm most uncomfortable with, I send a letter. And it's a very brief note. The ones I'm most comfortable with, that I deal with every single day, I send an email. And then the ones who are in between, I do a phone call. And why? Because the most intimate, ironically, is the letter. Second most intimate is the phone call. The person I dislike, I don't want to call them, because it's just, it's an intrusion upon them. And then the email, I'll send it, out of the blue. I haven't talked to you in a while. I hope you're doing well, and I'm excited to find out what's happening. I was just thinking about you today. And that's how it starts. I was thinking about you. I hope you're well, and I've been out of touch for a while, so, catch me up. And it's never a business conversation, ever. The moment you turn into a business conversation is the moment it starts losing its punch. So That's my answer to you. The ones that I don't like always get a letter.
All right, cool. And then the second follow-up question was, it's very clear to me, and I easily understand, the customers and the suppliers. I can certainly pick bits and pieces of who I would consider to be a team member, but then it's drawing people in from the world. There's going to be people that are going to be hard to stick into a category. Is there like a special way that you manage that process?
Yeah. So from the world, remember, you're not doing a business transaction. They're getting a note, and it's just an act of appreciation. Remember, you're helping them expand. So let me give you an example. Yesterday, I went to my favorite foot massage place. It's a reflexology place run by a Chinese woman, and they have 8 beds. And they give you these little time stamps, these visit stamps. And so when I take my kids, I get 3. When I took Sandra, I got 2. But after 10 stamps, most of them are 9, and then the 10th one's free. These guys go 11. So when you get 10 stamps, the 11th one is free. Well, why do I get stamps? When I have my 11th stamp, I give it to the woman. I say, give it to someone in this room right now, and don't tell them who gave it. And that's what I did yesterday. And so I was getting my foot massage, and they put, towel over my face and over my body, and they're doing my feet and all that. And the lady said, here, this is someone who'd like to give it to you anonymously from the world. That's my world. He goes, really? Why? Because that's what he does. And he doesn't want me to say, he's in this room right now, but he doesn't want to say who it is. Now, I was the only man in the room, so she really blew it, but, I started to tear because each foot massage is $35 US times 10, so that's a $350 gift from me, but it's only $35 to her. Mm-hmm. And she had 2 people, her and her daughter, her and her friend. I couldn't really tell. They looked like each other, but I think she was a very well preserved woman, beautiful woman, and I just heard her saying, "Oh my God, thank you. I don't even know what to say." And she felt awkward maybe to come over and thank me because, of course, I'm relaxing and getting a foot massage. But here's what happens. Will that person come into my world? Maybe, maybe not. But will someone else, as a result of doing it to that person? Yes, they will. So I'm not saying that person will come in. I'm saying other people from the world will come in. Is it likely that if she and her husband had a fight in the morning, she'll be nicer to him at night because she got a $35 free foot massage that cost me $350? Possibly. So that just happens to make me feel good. What does this have to do with business? I think everything. Everything. So the world means you're not going to bring those specific people in, but other people from the world will be coming in. So I just got a $25,000 client from the world. She runs an animal hospital. And she's wanting me to be CEO of her company. I have never met her, but everyone told her to talk to me. I had dinner with her, and then writes me a check. That doesn't happen even for me. So I'm thinking, it must be from giving to the world, and I got someone into the world, into my customer base, right? This is not woo-woo. This is science. I've been doing it a long time, and it works. So even if it didn't work, even if it's bullshit, it still makes you feel good.
Right on. All right, thank you.
All right, final word, Wendy. Go for it, now that we've gone over again.
I'll put 2 words together, energy web. I really see it as being that energy web stuff.
It is. Energy web it is. And, thank you for you, because I feel very comfortable with you guys. You guys are family, and so it's easy for me to teach this. Sven?
Implementation.
Very nice. Pete?
Karma.
Karma. Yeah, you can't move away from that. It's very scientific.
Yep.
Ashay?
New hope.
New hope. And Justina, I'm glad you're still there.
Intention.
What is it?
Intention.
Invention. Very good.
Intention.
Invention.
Intention.
Intention.
Intention. Intention. Very good. So for me, it's caring. So I love it. And you can create a culture of caring, which I think all of you are doing that. So I hope the coaching was good for you. I hope that you provide it in any way you can in moving forward. And if you implement it just a little bit, please share the results, because even in the sharing will amplify the intention behind those actions. So thank you for making my day, and I'll have this out to you within the next 15 minutes, okay? Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye
Nice
bye.
to see you all.
See you soon. Hey.